Hey, everybody, welcome in. We're getting ready. We're getting rocking. We're getting rolling. It is time for the 11 o'clock, just a few minutes away. I'm bringing in Facebook in just a second. I'm going to try to link to Facebook through Zoom. And the reason for that is because we're going to have a special guest. And if he's not on through Zoom, the Facebook folks won't see him. They won't know he's here. They won't be aware of his participation. So we may be doing like a double Zoom here if that really works, or double Facebook, because we'll come in through Zoom to Facebook and straight up to Facebook, although it might be silly to do that second way. Looks like it's working. Go live. Hang on. And it looks like it's Lincoln. I think we're Lincoln. Not the president. Lincoln in connected. Let's just cross the fingers. Let's hope. All right. All right. My tech crew tells me it's working. Yeah. All right. We're on Facebook. And where'd Zoom go? Zoom's here. We're on Facebook. We're on Zoom. We are looking like a bunch of professionals with the technology. I am so happy and so excited that this looks like it's going to work. I'm not going to be doing Facebook through my phone. I'm going to have Facebook doubled up through here. So I'm going to monitor it on the tablet as we always do. Let me pull that up. Again, it just takes a moment, guys. Be patient with me if you can. And all right, well, there it is. All right, everything's working. Zoom is working, Facebook's working. We're linked together. We are here. I see Scott's joined us. Scott is our guest for today. Scott, unmute your microphone for me, if you would. And welcome in. Scott, say hello to everybody.
Hey, hello, everybody.
Scott, are you already cutting hair? Have you served a client yet?
I started at 5 a.m. this morning.
Scott started cutting hair. Congratulations. Pella is back online. How'd it go? Pretty good?
Very good. You know what? It was emotional to turn that open sign the other way. You know, I was fine until I went to do that, and all of a sudden, I mean, that emotion level is right there, and like, oh my God, I'm gonna start crying. And it took a while to get used to cutting hair again. You know, I've been learning so much over this time, trying to stay in the game, and then all of a sudden you're there and you're doing it, and like, oh man, and I got to do this and do that, but it's like riding a bike. You know, it doesn't take too long to get back into the groove.
Congratulations, you're falling off a log again. That's awesome. Well, I'm excited to have you here. I'm very appreciative of the fact that even though you're open, you still carved out a little spot of time for us here. I've got a couple things I normally cover just to get rolling. You know the format. You've attended an awful lot of these with me. But Scott, you know, when we were talking about this, Scott and I were discussing what we'd talk about. And I have a few pointers that I want to bring up relative to the open a shop discussion. Obviously, I've had my own experience there, both opening chain salons on behalf of chains, as well as opening my own place. And Scott's got a little bit of experience himself. And I asked him to prepare. I said, tell me about the 3 things that you did wrong in opening a shop. And he goes, well, you know, it's not my first one. I really didn't do a lot wrong this time. And I think that's a testament to experience. But we've all bungled a few things along the way and had our learning experiences. And I also am going to tap into him to share, again, from those learning experiences, some of the things that he just hit out of the park, that he really got right. And part of that, I think, comes from the learning, because I did some things right and I did some things wrong when I opened my shop. And were I to open another one, I would, there's some new things that I would do that I've literally, guys, I'm not kidding when I tell you, I got a file in my computer of ideas for my shop that I've borrowed and stolen and taken and learned from so many people, the Scotts of the world, my friends in the business. So this is an exciting conversation. And if you're sitting here watching and listening because you are an experienced veteran who's been saving their tips and waiting to open, I think this is an exciting conversation. And if you're a cosmetology or barber school student who is sitting in on this program, who's got 100 hours at school, all of them online because of coronavirus, and you're literally just sticking your toe in the shallow end of the pool for the first time, this is still an exciting conversation. So that's where we're going to go. Let's take care of a little bit of business. We don't ever do this without acknowledging and commenting and complimenting our friends from Barbicide. Barbicide has been vital to our industry for nearly 100 years. And they're going to continue to be vital to our industry, especially as we get back to work. The certifications, the online planning and things like that to help you take care of customers, take care of you, protect your business and your reputation. So big shout out for them. We're going to skip $100,000 hair cutter this time out. It is a tradition that we read from the book every class, but I just want to get down to business and I want to get to it. Thank you to those of you who went online, even just since our last class, and purchased copies of the book. I saw some orders come through. Couple people bought the new 4-book combo. And specifically relative to this class, I do want to talk about big and bigger, because if you're thinking of opening a business, this is how I opened mine. This is what I did to grow my business. This is Big Busy Barbershop and Bigger Busy Barbershop. These are marketing books. There's nothing in here about how to cut hair. That's not what these books are about. These books are year 1 and year 2, weeks 1 through 52, weeks 53 through 104. Every single week is an idea for marketing your business. And any week can be week 1, and you start and you go. But there's 2 solid years to get a business on its feet, up and running, and successful. So that's what those 2 books are all about. And I want to invite you to pick up copies of those, paper or digital. Digital or download immediately. Paper, I'm just waiting for the books to come in. These are the initial author preview copies that I have. And so essentially it's kind of like a pre-order mode, but as soon as they come in the door, they turn around and they ship right out to you. So we are excited about that. I'm also excited about the fact that many of you have asked about these classes. Hey, I missed it live. Can I watch it on repeat? The answer is these classes exist on repeat until 9 p.m. every night. And typically we're getting about 3,000 views per class from the morning until 9 p.m. at night. At 9 p.m. I pull them. I take them down and I download the files, and those files are all being uploaded to YouTube. And they're all viewable on a special playlist on YouTube. And the playlist on YouTube is available through my community site. I'm putting it up. It's up here right now in chat, patreon.com/Ivan Zoot. If you go to that site, that is where you can sign up and you'll have access to that playlist, and you can watch these over and over and over again forever. They're going to live on, including this one. It's being recorded for that purpose as well. So you are invited to go there with me and enjoy all of that. Lastly, I do want to offer a shout out to my friends at Booksy. Booksy is the online appointment booking system that I use, and Booksy is now making Booksy available to everyone for free, starting today until July 1st. You don't have to pay for Booksy until July. If you go to my link in my profile on my Instagram, or you go to my social media channels, I posted it on all of them. There's a link there, and you use the code Ivan Zoot. That's your code. The code gets you free Booksy till July. Set up a profile, begin to use it, learn about it. The walk-in is dead, at least for the time being. We're not supposed to be taking walk-ins. It's not safe to have a waiting room full of people. Walk-ins are really a no-no right now. We're managing appointment flow. We're using appointment booking. App-based systems are the best way to go, and Booksy is the best of all of them. The back-end data is rock solid for decision-making, not with your gut or your heart, but decision-making done with your brain, with your calculator, and with rock solid data. And that's why that is, again, so very, very important. So that covers a little bit of introductory stuff and commercial stuff. I want to jump into how to open a shop, and I want to share my tips with you, and then I want to bring Scott in for his portion of the conversation, because I think Scott's got some great insights to offer. Scott is back to cutting hair. Iowa opened up 5 a.m. this morning. He's already served his first client. He's already finding that it's the same old game, but it's going to be different. If you're looking at opening a shop, number one, money. Number one, money. We got to start with money. You got to have money. You're going to take some money to open a shop. As far as money is concerned, I've got a couple of suggestions. Number one, however much money you think you need to have to open a shop, you're wrong. You need more. Whatever your number is, as you're doing your planning and you're doing your forecasting and you're doing your due diligence on opening a shop, whatever money you come up with that you think you need, I'm going to go out and I'm going to tell you the number you really need is probably double whatever you think you need. Literally double. If you think you're going to open up for $5,000, you need 10. If you think you're going to open up for 10 grand, you need 20. You need double. And here's what I mean. Number one, the flow of business is going to take some time to build up. There are all kinds of exciting ways to get busier faster. There's a lot of information out there, but it's still going to take time. You're going to need money to float the boat. You're going to need money to float the rent. You're going to need money to float advertising and promotion. You're going to need money for the stuff that didn't work quite right. And oh my God, I got a plumbing emergency. You're going to need money for the things you didn't think about that for whatever reason missed your list. Because even having open shops, I'm still going to forget something and go, oh, I got to do that. Well, there's another $800 gone to get my business up and running. So whatever money you're going to need more than you think you need. You're going to need double. As far as money is concerned, the other suggestion I want to make to you is go lean. Get the door unlocked for the least amount of money you can. I see people all the time building castles, building dream barbershops, building mega barbershops, and spending huge money on the front end. That's nice if grandpa left you money. That's nice if daddy gives you a pile of money. But even in those situations, I would tell you, if you are blessed to have a massive pile of money, don't spend it. Go lean. Get the door unlocked for the least amount of money you possibly can. Get the business open, get the door unlocked, and start serving customers, spending as little as you possibly can. Number one, it'll confirm that all of your instincts are correct. If this works, you can start spending money. Spend money off of your cash flow. Spend money as money comes in. Do not go into massive debt to open a barbershop. Don't spend money you don't have. I have seen people, I got a buddy who's got a very nice shop. And when he opened it up, I'm not kidding you, he had a mirror on a wall. He had an old dresser for a station. He had an old desk for a front desk. And he had an old church pew for a waiting room. And that was the whole shop. He literally opened a shop with stuff that he had in his garage. He got the door unlocked. He got the lights flipped on. He got the clippers a-buzzing, cutting alone by himself in a little shop. Today, that shop has 10 barbers. Today, that shop has a beautiful custom-built front desk. Today, he's got 10 stations with 10 mirrors and 10 beautiful styling stations, and he's got a lovely waiting room, and he's built a fabulous business. But he did it on his cash flow. He did not go into debt. He did not bite off more than he could chew, and he didn't start with a dream shop. He started with a dream, and then he built a shop. He didn't build a dream shop, and I think there's a big difference there.
Can I change my list, Ivan?
You know what? I got a feeling
I got to check out.
you and I probably have an awful lot of very common ideas and experiences, and I don't want to steal your thunder. I'm sure anything that you have to say that supports anything that I share will be appreciated by the audience. And I also welcome anything I say you want to disagree with. You know, we can take the gloves off and go there too. All right?
Yeah.
But I love it. That's
It's funny.
That's why we get along so well.
It's a fine edged sword, you know?
There you go. Number 2 on the list. Are you busy enough? And when I tell you to ask that question, you seriously got to dig deep on. If you're working in a shop and you're leaving to go out on your own and you want to open your own business, you need to be aware of the fact that you're going to lose traffic. You're going to lose heads. You're going to lose volume. So you need to really be double busy. Just like I said, you need double money. You probably need to be double busy, because you're not going to be that busy when you leave. People who say they're going to follow you aren't going to follow you. People who say they're going to follow you are going to follow you once and never come back. People who don't say they're going to follow you won't follow you. I mean, it's really going to happen that way. So, you know, when you ask yourself, am I busy enough to survive? I think you want to look at half your current level of business and know that that may be the reality of what you get involved in. Next, 3 on my list before we get to Scott. You know, anytime you talk about business or you talk about real estate, they always say location, location, location. I'm only going to say it once. I'm going to say location. But underneath location, I'm going to say a few things. Location. But when you consider your location, I'm not just talking about foot traffic, and I'm not just talking about visibility. Let's talk about some other things. Space. Is the space big enough? Is the space too big? If you're working alone, how much room do you need? If you're planning to grow, how much can you expand within this footprint? Once you get established, once you get open, once customers know where you are and what you do, moving even across the street becomes a very expensive undertaking. Is your space optimized now and to be able to scale? Number 2 on the list, it can be a perfect space in a perfect location, but are the terms of the lease going to work for you? Are the terms of the lease going to work for you long term? Is this a landlord you can work with? Is this a landlord who can, again, scale with you, with whom you can grow long term? Again, you open up, you're there 4 years, the building gets sold and the new landlord is not somebody you can work with. That's something you maybe can't plan for. But are you in a situation lease-wise where this can work? One consideration a lot of people don't think about, and this is a challenge we have in our shop, how's the water? We happen to be in a suburb. We happen to be in a strip center with well water. The water is terrible. Now, next door to us is a restaurant. In order to use water, and they need more water than I need in a barbershop, they've had to spend a great deal of money on water filtration and you know, reverse osmosis systems or whatever it is they've installed. Do you have water? And is the water you have suitable for the work you need to do? In the age of infection control and virus protection in which we live, that water question is probably an even more important question than it was just 7 or 8 weeks ago. Last on the list, and this is where you're going to learn from Ivan's challenges. Last on the list under location is parking. 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 There's a mathematical formula for barbershops and hair salons. The mathematical formula is that you need to have a minimum of 3 parking spaces for every service chair in your business. So a 3-chair barbershop really needs to have access to at least 9 parking spaces. You got 1 in your chair, you got your car because you drove to work, and you got 1 in the waiting room or in their car during coronavirus. So a 3-chair shop needs 9 spots. A 5-chair shop needs 15 parking spaces. So this is a real consideration. Hey, you're working alone, you're by yourself, you're opening your shop, no big deal. You only got a couple of spots. But if it works, if you're successful, if the business scales, 2 years later, you need 12 parking spaces, what are you going to do? You going to move? Got to be thinking ahead. Number 1 is money. Number 2 is, are you busy enough? Number 3 is location. And number 4, how are you going to run the business when it scales? If you're working alone to get started, you're a single individual proprietor, you own the business, you're good. But very, very quickly, and Scott's an example of this, Scott thought it would take longer. Scott unlocked the door, and all of a sudden, Scott's calling me talking about hiring somebody. What a blessing. What a positive situation. You should be thinking up front. Are you working alone? Are you going to be building a team? Or are you going to be renting chairs? Because renting chairs and building a team are two totally different business models. If you rent chairs, you're not a salon owner, you're a landlord. If you have employees, you're building a team. You're not renting chairs and you're not a landlord. You're the owner of a business. Yes, being a landlord is still a business, but it's not nearly the same thing. So those are my 4 big considerations, starting with money, money, money. Number 2, volume, business, and traffic. Number 3, what we'll call location considerations. And number 4 is the long lens, big picture look at, I know how I'm starting. Where am I going? It's not too early to be giving some thought or consideration to that. So with those things under our belt, Scott.
Yeah.
Let's talk.
You bet.
Let's talk about opening a business. When did you open the current
I
business?
I opened up August 25th of last year. So I've been cutting hair for 18 years, and that's why I said to you in a message before that it's just difficult to think about those things because I already had a shop, but I bought it. I bought somebody else's shop, somebody else's vision, somebody else's dream. I loved it, and I fell in love with it. I spent the money and bought it, and I wasn't ready for it. I learned a ton in that, but I wasn't ready for it. So that's why it's difficult to look at this experience here, which has been very successful right off the bat.
And you weren't ready for coronavirus either.
Well, yeah, but it actually is set up perfectly for this because I am by myself. I've got a 2-chair shop here, so I'm able to jump back and forth between stations and allow the station to sanitize while I'm working on somebody else. So that cuts my time down a little bit, allows me to work on more people. So I'm able to get through it, but yeah, it's funny because those things that you talked about, I'm like, oh, okay, I got to mark that off because that's actually a positive on mine. And so it's funny.
Want you to mark it off. I still want you to address those things because your experiences, certainly, they validate what I share, and mine validate yours as well because they are the realities of what goes on, as well as your take on some of these things will be a little different. Now, 18 years in the business. When you say you weren't ready when you took over your first shop, I was very new in the business. I was very early on in my career when I opened my first shop. And, I will certainly tell you I had no idea what the hell I was doing. Jokingly, I've said, had I known then what I know now about owning and managing, I might not have pulled the trigger. So again, my reflection on that is I went into it with a business partner who was not a barber. He was not in the shop. He was not cutting hair. He was just a 50% investor with me. He ran accounting and bookkeeping and payroll, and I ran the business itself. But he had plenty of solid business experience. I had no freaking clue. And in a way, in our case, it helped because I wasn't buried in things like, well, we tried that and it didn't work because I'd never tried anything. I wasn't buried in, well, the industry has always done it this way because I hadn't been in the industry. So I did some stuff that qualified as really stupid because I didn't know any better. And I also did some stuff that came away as being, wow, never would have thought of that just because I didn't know any better. So, in your case, I think you look back on, as I'm hearing you look back on, I wasn't ready and acknowledging and accepting, it could have been better. I look at it as I wasn't ready and hell, I was never going to be ready.
Yeah. Well, and there's a lot of truth to that because I still maybe am not ready for what I opened up. So it comes down to what is the reason why you want to open a shop. In my case, I wanted to get out of the environment that I was in. I was looking to open a shop here, and I'm in a small town, so there's dynamics that go on with that. And so my option was looking in a different direction in a different city. It was in Des Moines. It's in a much bigger city and it's an hour away. So there was a little bit of that. There was a desire to go out on my own because I saw the situation that I was in. Like, well, I can just go. Why would I had the opportunity to buy the shop that I started out in, and then I had an opportunity to buy the shop in Des Moines. And I saw that I could just, why would I buy this guy's shop here in town when I could just go across the street and put up a chair and a mirror and be just as successful? Because there was enough business I felt in town that I could open up a shop.
Let me touch on one thing there. You know, it's interesting that you say that because I opened from scratch in a brand new strip mall. Literally the spot that I put my business in, when I looked at it at first, the floor was gravel because they hadn't poured the floor yet because they didn't know what kind of business was going to go in. And after you pour the floor, saw cutting the floor is an expensive undertaking. So I was the first spot in my strip center. And the other option, of course, is buying an existing business. Now, when I sold my business, and it's still owned by the family I sold my shop to, they bought my business as an existing business. And that's a huge difference. There's a huge difference between taking over an existing business. There's a difference in taking over an existing location. You know, I tell people one of the best ways to open a barbershop or hair salon is find a closed barbershop or hair salon. It'll save you having to buy the plumber a Mercedes. Okay, that's just a huge benefit when you can help it. You know, the wiring, the rough wiring is there, the rough plumbing is there, but you also have to factor in, and the shop I currently work in has this benefit. It has what we'll call market equity. And what I mean by that is, you've been to my shop, Scott, the physical location where we cut hair has been a barbershop within that 1,000 square feet since 1964.
Yeah.
You can't undervalue the importance of the fact that over 50 years of people know that's where you go. Now the people have changed, and you know, I would say the furniture has changed, but it hasn't. And I would say the paint has changed, but it hasn't. That's part of who we are. But there is equity in that. So the people that bought my business, they bought used chairs and used furniture, but they also bought the community's knowledge of that location as a haircut place. Now you have to be careful because not all businesses have positive reputation, but I think you do have to factor in when you're making that decision. Do I buy where I'm working? Do I go across the street? Either one of those can be a good decision, but there are different factors that play into it. So go ahead.
Yeah, well, there's so much more in that I certainly would love to respond to, because when you talked about spending, don't spend a whole lot of money. I actually have that as one of my positives of spend the money. Spend the money for what you want. Now, I had an idea of how the shop I wanted, and it was actually 3 times as much as I anticipated. I spent more money on my back bar than I was planning to spend on the whole shop. I spent more money than that in the back bar, if that makes sense.
Now, was your back bar a custom made piece, or did you find something vintage?
I wanted to find something vintage, but I couldn't find exactly what I wanted. In hindsight, I would have spent about the same finding an old vintage back bar. So I spent a lot of money on a custom made unit, which it's what I wanted though. So, and had I done this in the beginning when I first decided to open a shop, I would have lost my shorts. I lost my shorts just buying that business, because there's a lot of things that I didn't do to make the business successful. But had I spent all that money up front on a business and a back bar and chairs, I spent a lot of money on old antique chairs, and I can probably spin my camera around here and show you in a little bit. But
I'm sure. Let me just interject one thing real quick. One of the things I've told people in the game of opening, you may not be ready to open just yet. You may know that down the road you want to open, and I have seen this happen a number of times over the years, and it still happens. I will get a phone call from a guy who's a landlord who's got a strip on a street in the city somewhere, who's got a 3-chair barbershop. And he'll call me up on a telephone. He'll go, "Ivan, do you know anybody that wants this stuff?" And I'll say, "What do you mean?" And he'll say, "Well, this barbershop closed, and he's holding in his hand, he's holding a lease from a guy who's going to open up an accounting office. And he goes, I signed a lease on this space. I got an accountant going in. I need to get rid of this crap. I need to get rid of this crap. That's the quote. And what these guys have said to me many times is, if you got a guy with a truck and you want to come get it, you can have it. I mean, literally 3-chair barbershop. We're talking 3 vintage barber chairs, 3 station back bar, 9 waiting room chairs, a coat rack, 3 sinks, mirrors, lighting, the whole thing. By the way, all of it will fit into a small U-Haul. And I have, on a couple of occasions, I've put this out there to my relationships in the community, and there's 2 instances in which I've had a guy go, I want it. And he's literally showed up with 3 buddies, 2 pizzas, and a 12-pack of beer. They loaded the whole barbershop into a truck, and they put it in somebody's garage. Jeez. And yeah, you shake your head when you see it, but Chicago's 12.6 million, Illinois is 12.6 million people. There's 9 million people in Chicago. These kind of closing barbershops, I think it's starting to fade, but there was a time there, sort of late 90s, early 2000s, when all of the barbers from the 50s were aging out. They were getting old, they were retiring. And you got to remember, this is a barber who's had 3 children. His daughter's a brain surgeon, his son is a lawyer, and his other son is a cop. And these guys don't want the barbershop. And the old man's going, this was my whole life. And I hope to be that old man someday. And I already know that neither one of my kids are going to be barbers, but keep your eyes open for these, because all across America, those kind of opportunities exist. And you're still going to find your vintage back bar one of these days.
Yeah. And that's funny, because the chairs that I bought 1910 Theo Koch's barber chairs. They were together from the factory in Chicago. But I bought them off of eBay, and I picked them up in Las Vegas, and I drove across the country to bring them here. And that was a whole story and a fiasco. I spent a lot of money doing that.
I remember that.
So, but I love it. It's a story, and it's something I can tell people for the rest of my life. So
it's part of the history and culture of the business. You got it.
Yeah. So my number one thing that I wrote down was really just taking the leap to open. Just deciding to do it, because it takes guts, and you won't know what it's like unless you do it. And it's going to be a learning experience. You might do things right, you might not do things right, but you got to do it. If you've got any inkling of doing it, go for it. So I think
that's a fabulous piece of advice. People all the time, I'll be at a show and I'll be talking up one of my books, and I've had people, and Scott, you and I have talked about this, I've had people pick up my book and flip through the book and look at the book, and I've had them look me in the eye and say, I could have written that book. And I always get a kick out of that, because the answer is, of course you could have written that book. I haven't written anything in a book that Scott doesn't already know. I haven't written anything in a book that Scott hasn't already heard or told somebody. But I look at these people when they say this, and I go, of course you could have written the book, but you didn't. Of course you could open a shop. There you go, Scott's card right there.
Yeah, I'm just showing that for David, because he asked what's the name of my shop. It's Groom Barber Lounge. So
I keep talking.
There's so many. There's so many things that you can say. Yeah, this is the best thing I did. But that was one of the things too. Is before I opened up shop, the name of my shop, which I actually had in my house, after my first business, we closed the doors. The building went into foreclosure and all that. I came home and still had people requesting haircuts, so I opened up a shop in my house, legal shop. Licensed and everything, but I opened up a shop in my house, and it was called Papa's Barbershop, and I operated under that for 10 years, and I wanted to keep it because why would I change the name of the barbershop if I had built it up for these 10 years under that name? Why would I change it and lose maybe all that built up momentum? But changing the name to Groom Barber Lounge was perfect, because Papa's Barbershop has maybe a different connotation than Groom Barber Lounge. It might mean 2 different things. I don't know what your idea of a barbershop is, but my idea of a barbershop really became Groom Barber Lounge. And it's a little different than your typical barbershop. Papa's might sound like a guy that's 70 years old and has been cutting hair forever, and you know, it's just different. So that was very successful. It gave a different name to the shop, a different feel, and a different idea, and set the tone for the business starting. So
I think that name conversation is, and by the way, there's your groom hat right there, folks. You see that? I miss my barber, groom barbershop hat. There you go. There you go. You know, when I opened my place, we were called Zoot Cuts. Z-O-O-T, my last name, Cuts. And the reason behind that was because I had come from working for a large chain, and I was looking like a chain and behaving like a chain, and it really needed to be very much a chain place. When you walked in my place, it looked like a chain. Funny story is, week 2 that I was open, I cut a guy's hair in my shop. Now you got to remember, it's week 2. We have not had a single repeat customer yet. And the guy in my chair tells me how excited he is that I'm open, because he used to get his hair cut at our other location out in Colorado.
For $10.
Yeah, right. At our location, because, and I don't know what chain he had me confused with, but it warmed my heart because it said, okay, I got it right. I got the feel and the name, and all these people really, it fit together. Now, I've jokingly said, if I ever open again, I know what the name of my business is going to be when I open next time. Scott, have you ever talked about this with me? Did we ever talk about this?
I don't recall.
Yeah, I'm going to open a place when I open again. And you know what I'm going to call my place? Barbershop.
Barbershop.
I'm going to call, you know how we're going to answer the phone? Barbershop.
Yeah.
And it's part of, to your exact point.
Yeah.
Papa's Barbershop versus Groom Barber Lounge. You know, we're painting pictures here. We're creating optics, and we're creating a mood and a feel and everything. And I totally get it. I always joked. I said, I'm going to call the place Al's Barbershop. A-L. And the reason for that, and I'm not Al, I'm Ivan, but the reason for that was going to be that my 2 boys' first names begin with an A and an L. And that was kind of going to be a nod to my boys. It's going to be Al's Barbershop. But part of that would be, you know, I work now at a place called Mike's Barbershop, and it's very important that everybody knows there is no Mike.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, it goes in the same line too of, I don't go around telling people I'm a barber. I don't lead with I'm a barber, because I don't know what your idea of a barber is. Okay. So I usually will say I provide 30-minute experiences to help you look and make you feel sharp. Okay. It's because I don't, like, your idea of a barber might be that guy that's 70 years old, drinks, and by the time noon comes around, he's half in the bag and he's shaking and he's got a strict, you know, I don't know what your opinion or what your idea of a barber is.
You know,
so
it goes to bring that up. That could probably be a whole different show.
Oh yeah.
I mean, we can get into that, because you know, when I got into the business, I used to refer to myself as a hairdresser. And I liked the term hairdresser because I thought it had a different feel. Now, the truth of the matter is, 33 years in the business, honestly, I have never done anything that would qualify as hairdressing. Okay, I never did roller sets, and I never did comb outs, and I never did blow dry iron curl services. I literally never dressed hair. Later, I went back and got a barber license, and I've actually caught a lot of crap from a lot of people on the web. There was one guy in particular who used to be on my social media just flaming the hell out of me almost daily about using the term hair cutter. And, you know, when you look at the book is $100,000 hair cutter. It's not $100,000 barber, and it's not $100,000 hairstylist. And for me, over my career, I kind of morphed to hair cutter because I don't do color and I don't do styling. I cut hair. And I believe hair cutting, just the act of cutting, is a very specific it's a craft, and it's a skill, and it's specialized. And I believe I'm damn good at it, but only because I've been doing it for a very long time, and I haven't been doing anything else. So to me, that's kind of this niche term. And this particular person who used to be all over me about this felt that the term hair cutter was disrespectful. He saw hair cutter as factory work. He saw it as tied to the labor of it, as opposed to tied to where I did the focus and the skill. So that I think you're so on the money about the importance of naming and titling.
Yeah.
The feel that it creates and the perspective. It's the picture you paint. So go ahead.
Yeah.
You
Well, there's a barbershop up the street from me, literally a half a block, and it's different. Groom Barber Lounge is different than Beeks Barbershop. Now, Beeks Barbershop is updated since I opened up, but it's different. So
isn't it fun to force the competition to change their game?
Possibly. Which is good, and that's a whole nother subject. Is because I'm by myself. I think it's important to have somebody else working with you, because you can get stuck in a rut very easily. I can pick up bad habits. If I've got somebody else in a chair working next to me, I can see what work they're doing. I'm like, I gotta maybe step up my game a little bit. Stay on top of it. So if you've got a barbershop down the street that is doing things, you need to step up your game. It causes you to think a little bit more about what you're doing, and it's good. It's a good thing. I bring it on. I mean,
rising tide lifts all ships. There's no question about it.
Exactly.
I always say our industry is very entrepreneurial in nature. We're individual folks. Even if we've got a team of 3 or 4 with us or something, we got our vision and our mission, and we sometimes get a little bit of blinders and a little bit of store blindness, narrow focus like that. I always say it's important. You don't want to have one eye on the competition, because you need 2 eyes on your own business, but you definitely need to have an awareness of the fact that the industry is bigger than your 4 walls.
Yeah.
Definitely.
One of the things that's on my list too is you've got to have an online presence. You've got to have a website. Now, when I had the shop in Des Moines, it was in the Skywalk in Des Moines. Lots of busy traffic going by. I would always get people walk in the shop, and they'd have 2 questions. I think 1 question basically: how much are your haircuts? And you could see it in their face. They were really nervous about coming in. And I think when you come into a shop, you're expected to sit down in the chair, right? I mean, why else would you be in there? So putting up a website allowed people to come into the shop, get to know who's in there, how much your price, get all their questions answered, get a feel for the shop without actually having to come in the shop and feel obligated to sit in the chair.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. 2 big points on that. And I think you're dead on. There's 2 things there. Thing number 1 is stop treating the haircut price like it's a secret. Okay? If you set a price, stand up straight and tall, chest up, shoulders back, chin high, be proud of what you do, be proud of what you charge, and don't treat it like a secret. I'm not telling you have to have a big chalkboard with a tacky sign up. Do what is appropriate for your culture and your market, but make it very clear what the price is. My shop, again, because we were a chain, my price was on my window in 48-inch characters. Okay. And it was real easy, because when I opened, it was $9. We were $9. I had a 4'9" on my front window, but it goes, and I'm not saying you should do that today, but it was about number 1, don't make it a secret. And a website's a great way to do that, so people can check you out 24/7, 365. Totally agree with that. Yeah. The other statement I want to make is you've got to find ways to make it okay for people to come to your business when they're not getting a haircut. It's got to be okay to visit. Now, coronavirus world, things are a little bit different. We don't want people congregating. I get that. But whether it is the fact that you sell take-home product, whether it is the fact that you got a big screen on the wall that's got the Cubs game on. The barbershop I worked in before we moved up north here, the owner was a Cubs lunatic. If there was a Cubs game being broadcast, it was on our TV. And I'm not kidding you when I tell you, we would, especially Friday afternoon games, a Friday 105 game from 1 o'clock till 5 o'clock on Friday, we had no less than a dozen people in the barbershop. And the guys that were cutting hair were watching the TV, and the guys that were getting haircuts were watching the TV, and the 9 guys in the waiting room weren't cutting, weren't getting a haircut, and didn't need one today. They were literally there to watch the game. And that's that sense of community that I hope in the wake of coronavirus, I hope we don't lose. I hope we get back to a time and a place in which that, because let's be honest, Scott, when I talk about retiring to cut hair, now think about that. I'm going to
Yeah.
retire so that I can go cut hair. For a lot of people, that's a job they leave. I'm going to go to them. When I talk about retiring to cut hair, I am talking about from like 75 to 103 years old, going to the barbershop primarily to hang out and watch a ball game.
Yeah.
The fact that I'm going to cut some hair it's nice and it's secondary, and as long as I don't have the shakes, I'll be probably okay. But I think we've got to find ways to continue to make, and when we get past coronavirus, but find ways to continue to make the barbershop the epicenter of the community. And we have to figure that out. And I don't have all the answers, but I really know what works.
And that's what the lounge part of my barbershop is. I have my shop is kind of separated in two different sections. The other section, I've got the cutting floor over here, and then the other section over there is the lounge area. I've got a table, I've got a pinball machine and a dartboard. It's really kind of catered towards I designed it for wedding parties, for the guys to come in and get cleaned up before a wedding. We call it the grooming party. But it could be what's interesting has happened is it's actually become fathers, sons, and grandsons type of thing that's coming up. That's kind of developed since building this out like that. So
that's cool. You know, I can tell you two sides of my barbering experience. When I was, and I've told this story, when I was a kid, there was a barbershop across the street from our grammar school. You got to remember, when I was a kid, I lived in the city. When I was a kid, we didn't take a school bus. You walked to school, you walked home for lunch, you walked back to school, you walked back at the end of the day. Well, 2:30 in the afternoon, these three barbers, all of whom were former Golden Glove boxers, used to stand outside the front of their shop. And if you walked past the shop and you needed a haircut, they would grab you, drag you in, throw you in the chair, cut your hair, and tell you to go home and get the money. Now, you got to remember, this was the 60s. Into the 70s when hair was long, and you didn't argue with these barbers because they had arms that were as big as somebody's thigh. And I think about that today, and I think about how much trouble would you get in if you cut a 7-year-old kid without his mother's permission?
Well, they're not walking around like they used to.
And they're not walking around like they used to, thank God. But these are my earliest barbershop memories, and it took me several years to learn that if my hair was long, I had to walk home a different way so that I wouldn't get dragged into the barbershop. But you fast forward to the early 1980s. I'm in high school. I have a driver's license. We've moved to the suburbs. And now I am driving into the city to pick up my grandpa to take him to that barbershop because he's old. He doesn't drive anymore. This barbershop is in his neighborhood. Same barber's cutting hair in there. And at that, my grandfather at that point was in his mid-80s, and I'm driving him over to the barbershop. Then we're going across the street to pick up cigars from the cigar store. And then we're going back to the house. So that was that same barbershop that I avoided as a young kid that I found and these are great memories, and it's exactly what you're trying to build, and that's why we get it like this together. Yeah.
And it's not about the haircut for grandpa, right? It's or dad. It's the experience. It's going back to that time. It could be an okay hair. It doesn't have to be a perfect haircut.
No, it's about a couple things. Yeah, you're absolutely right. It was
the experience, the smell, the feel, the sounds. It's more than a haircut.
Yep. I mean, for my grandfather, it was the haircut. It was the time together. It was that familiar place. It was cigars. It was a ride in the car. It was getting away from my grandmother. It was fresh air and sunshine. There was so many things wrapped up in that experience. And I know you've heard me talk about this, and I want to get back to your tips, but I just want to also mention, because I get choked up when I talk about this. You know where I'm going with this. How often we have these situations where a man or a woman, and the man could be in his 60s, my age in their 50s, brings an old man into the barbershop. Guy's got a walker, or the guy's in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And he needs a haircut and a shave because he's just got out of a week in the hospital, or 14 days in a rehab,
Yeah.
in a post-acute care center or something like that. And he's getting back home and he's getting back to real life. And they're stopping for lunch, but more important than lunch, they're coming to the barbershop.
Yeah.
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 Serious stuff.
Yeah. There's
I
lots
love
of stories about that. The guy's on chemo and his wife bringing him in, and I'm cutting his hair for the last time for a little while. I mean,
Yeah.
it's we can get too emotional with a lot of those stories, but there's way more to it. So that probably kind of wraps up the whole, the name of the barbershop and barber and all that stuff. Those things are important. There's more to it. So having a mentor is my third biggest thing, and that's also a thing that I wish I did. But it's having a mentor, and I guess I will blow up your head a little bit, Ivan. But making that decision to sign up for your class, I think it was $100,000 haircutter class.
Yeah,
I think you offered that.
And you came down, and
Yeah,
you were the only one that signed up for that class that day.
Yeah.
It was a one-on-one sitting at the table at Subway next door.
Yeah, I mean, and that blew me away, because I came up to the show, and I had been kind of plugged into what you had been doing a while ago. I mean, maybe 10 years ago. Some of the stuff, I've still got a zip drive of your stuff, and so when I went up, there was actually the MLB barber show was the day before. So I'll come in a day early and I'll go to that, because going to hair shows and stuff like that is great, and there's not a whole lot of barber stuff like that. So and when I came up to you at the show and you said, well, you're the only one that signed up, so if it goes, if you're still the only one, we'll just go and sit down and have lunch and talk for a couple hours, which just kind of blew me away. I mean, what an opportunity. And so that has been somewhat, to have a mentor is very important. I wish I would had somebody very early on that I could have plugged into and learned from, instead of someone going out on my own. That's a positive and a negative. That it's so important. And people that are listening now know, they're tuned in to your stuff, and it doesn't mean you have to take everything 100%. This is exactly what you need to do.
Please don't.
Well, but it's good guidance. I mean, the haircut price is an amazing thing to like. Yeah, there is a reason for what you charge, how much you charge, and there's a system, and there's a way to figure that out. Not just like, because you come out of school, you're not charging people. You're in school, you're maybe getting $1 or a couple dollars for a tip, and then all of a sudden you're getting $10 for a haircut. It's a while ago. It's different, and it's like I love cutting hair. I love talking with people. I would do it for free if I could, right? And so there's a formula for figuring that out. I mean, so having a mentor to talk through things, to go, hey, I got this crazy idea. What do you think? And it's so important, especially with me by myself. You need that. You need to have somebody else to bounce ideas off of, to challenge you, to work out frustrations. It's important.
Yeah. I mean, here's my take on mentoring. I always say, and I've been blessed to have some people in my life and in my career from, I had two dads. I had my dad, my biological dad, and I had my father-in-law, who from a very younger, impressionable age, when I started dating my wife, and my two dads were very different in their life experience, business experience, attitude, demeanor. They couldn't have been farther apart as individuals. But they provided me with a great source of contrast in that. But when it comes to picking mentors, and I've been lucky, I always say, find somebody who has what you want to have, who is where you want to be, who does what you want to do, who knows what you want to know. And I hope I'm not wrong. But I really believe, because I've tried to live this way and I've tried to behave that way, that reach out to these people. Pick up the telephone, get in the car, ask questions on social media, ping them. I want to believe, I've operated this way, I want to believe people want to help you. People want to
Yep.
share what they know. Every once in a while, you're going to come across a guy who's just a jerk. Every
Yeah.
once in a while, you're going to come across a guy who believes that information is to be kept secret. And I've always believed, it's kind of a spiritual thing, but I've always used that metaphor of lighting a candle. I got a candle that's burning really bright. If I light your candle, that doesn't make my candle any dimmer. It doesn't burn less brightly because I lit yours. And if I light yours and I light another one, or you light somebody else's candle, you extending that metaphor, the whole thing brightens, and you absolutely lose nothing by helping someone else gain. I always say in our business, there's 328 million heads in America. We are not competing with each other. No one that lives in Pella, Iowa, that is a client of Scott's is going to see me online and go, I got to go get a haircut. It's just not going to happen. And Scott's not taking my customers. And when Scott writes a book, I'm not going to sell one less book. It's just not the way it works. And there are people that don't buy into that, and that's okay. That's for them. But I just think our industry has been built, there's all those people that rah-rah education, and I believe in education. I wouldn't do it like I do, but I also believe in supporting one another in that way. So I think anybody can go out there and find mentors. And the other thing I say about being a mentor and that relationship is, please don't misunderstand. I get people reaching out to me online all the time going, hey, will you mentor me? And I usually reply to them by saying, explain to me how that would work and what that would look like. And I'm always curious with their answer, because a true relationship between a mentor and a mentee, if that's the word, or a mentor and a pupil, when that works, it's a two-way street. It's absolutely a two-way street. It's not just somebody is giving to you constantly. It's you're both gaining something from it. Let's face it, I wouldn't have devoted a career to education in this industry if I wasn't getting something out of it. And when I say getting something out of it, everyone who knows me knows that that's bigger than money. That's not about, of course, when I sell a book, okay, I make a buck. I'm not going to lie about it, but it's bigger than that. I don't think you write, you want to write a novel, you want to write the Da Vinci Code because you want to sell books. God bless, go for it. But when you write a book called 100 New Haircut Customers in 100 Days, this is about nothing but helping people. So go ahead. Mentors, absolutely.
Yeah, I think that's really important. Actually, and one of the things that I picked up from that session with you is this. This thing right here is the reason why Groom Barber Lounge was busy from the get-go. Before I, and if you don't know, people don't know what this is, you haven't been listening to Ivan long enough.
No, if they don't know what that is, they haven't bought a book.
It's
a bookmark.
And this thing, it's Ivan's complete haircut marketing program. Thank you for the opportunity to cut your hair. This is after checking somebody out. I appreciate your business. If I give you these 2 business cards, will you send me 2 of your friends? And I know that by heart. I'm trying to read and talk at the same time.
You don't need to read it. Yeah, exactly.
I don't, but because I kind of had a little bit of a take of it on my own. But this right here, this handing out 2 business cards is the cheapest way to market that you could possibly come up with. That you could do. You could spend hundreds of dollars on radio and all that stuff, but this right here is the biggest payback that you'll ever find. And it's interesting because in this small town of 10,000 people, there's stories that happen of people like, I was handing out one of your business cards to a guy at work, and he already had one, and my son's working at the drive-through of Burger King, and he's people open up their wallets, and here's my business card in their wallet. He's laughing. He's like, Papa, your cards are all over the place.
Getting it done. Yeah, and the beautiful thing about it is what I love about that idea, and I did that deliberately, I call it the Complete Haircut Marketing Program. It's 3 sentences, and literally this huge industry and all this education and all these books and everything, our entire business boils down to 3 sentences that fit on one side of a 2x6-inch bookmark. And in a way, that's the essence of it. I mean, literally everything you need to ever say to a client can fit on a single business card if it's given a little forethought and done right. Referrals always have been, always will be the cheapest and most effective way to build business in our business. You know, social media is everybody's new darling. You know, everybody loves social media. Well, you know what? This is media, and this is social.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not to say that social media is, don't do it, because that's an important thing too. And that's one of the wishes that I wish, we had a plan for social media, but the 2 business cards things is fantastic. It's it will get you busy. No doubt about it. So, and I love the stories that it creates with it. And you're training customers, you're training your clients, right? You're training them that no, I'm not going to all kinds of things. I'm not going to take a walk-in whenever you want. I'm not going to take your haircut when you come in 5 minutes after I've closed. I mean, so this is just one more thing. You're training people, and it's okay.
Yeah, very cool. All right, Scott, with the last few minutes we have here, I'm just going to give it to you. I want you to put you on a hot seat right here. With the last 3 or 4 minutes of the program, I want you to put a cherry on the top of this sundae. I want you to put a bow on this package. I want you to send everybody to lunch with, the big takeaways they need from this little conversation. I think we could open a barbershop episode 2 very easily and continue this, and we probably should. You and I probably should, but go. You've got take the last few moments and go for it.
Oh, okay. So I got about 5 minutes. Yes. So like the whole mentorship thing. So go around to different barbershops. When you go to a new town, when you look up other barbers, reach out to them. I'd love to talk to anybody about my experiences, about opening up a shop, there's so much we could talk about. So yeah, find those people. If you're in a shop by yourself, you got to reach out, become involved in groups of haircutters. There's things on Facebook, all kinds of different sources for that. Barber shows, hair shows, get a hold of Ivan, get a hold of me. There's lots of opportunities to learn. And I will tell you this, if you're going to plug into Ivan, you're going to have to listen to Ivan over and over and over, because he's so full of energy that you need to listen to him a couple times before you can grasp things. You're not going to grasp everything right off the bat, right?
Usually when people say Ivan is so full of, they usually end that sentence with a different word.
I did wink a little bit, maybe, but yeah. What else could I say? You put me on the hot seat, definitely.
That's all right.
It's okay. And have confidence. I remember, Ivan, when I sat down with you in Mike's barbershop across from you, and I came from this barber show where all these guys are doing these fantastic fades and beautiful blends and all this stuff, and and I sat across from you. I'm like, I don't cut hair like that. How can I do that? How can I? And you said it's a dog and pony show. It's a lot of what you're seeing is not, is kind of is a show, right? So it really, if there's anything I can do, is build up your confidence. My confidence level at that point was down to nothing. I'm like, I was ready to go hang up and forget it. I'm not going to do this. I was just about to open up the shop, and you certainly built up my confidence with that. which goes into that mentorship thing. You know, you need somebody to throw ideas off of, especially me being the single barber, kind of going on it my own. You do need to plug in, you know, into that. And you also introduced me into the John Amico family with that, and that's been important too. The education that comes with being a John Amico member is especially being a single chair shop. That is my extra barbers and extra stylists. That's that community that I don't have being in a chair by myself.
Yeah, community, absolutely. You know, and I tell people all the time, I'm proud to say that in any given hair show, I am, you know, of the hair cutters in the room, I'm absolutely in the bottom 50% when it comes to, you know, technical skill and cranking out these unbelievable haircuts and stuff like that. But I'm also, you know, real honest up front with people, telling them that's just not what makes you successful in the business. Haircuts need to be good enough. And it's the other 80% of this business that is what's going to really rock you. So I'm proud of you. You've been doing great. You know, I know there will come a day and a time in which we're going to be able to look back on coronavirus as a speed bump. Not a Grand Canyon, and not a crater, and not an end. Certainly not a beginning, but a speed bump in a otherwise ongoing journey. So thank you so much for taking the time out.
Thank you.
Your first day back in the shop. You know, it's lunchtime. If you're going to grab some lunch, do that. If you're going to hit it hard, do that. Continue to do the good things you're doing. And based on all the comments and things that I've seen and heard here, I got a sneaky feeling by popular demand, we're going to come back and do this again.
That'd be great. I love it. I love you, Ivan, and I love everybody out there.
Love you, buddy.
Thanks.
Talk soon. Thank you,
bet.
everybody. Have a great day. Have a good weekend. We're back Monday, 9 o'clock with a whole new schedule of classes, 2 a day, 9 and 11, all 5 days, 10 classes. IvanZoot.com has a download of the entire schedule with all the Zoom links. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.